Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Florence Scovel Shinn book study class. Now, we are reading her book, The Game of Life, and how to play it. And we are today on the chapter, The Law of Prosperity. Okay, now, as we're reading through this book, the idea is for you to say, okay, I need to know how to apply this to what I'm currently going through. And feel free to ask questions. Just put your little hand up. If you're stuck how to do that, just put it up in the chat and someone will help you. Otherwise, just if you switch on your video and just go like that, then I can see you and I can call on you. Okay. So now, if you've got the book and you feel like reading, put your hand up as well, and then I can call on you. So it's not always me reading. I don't mind doing the reading, but it's nice for you to read a bit too, if you are in the mood. So, the law of prosperity. Ye, the Almighty, shall be thy defense, and thou shalt have plenty of silver. One of the greatest messages given to the race through the scriptures is that God is man's supply and that man can release. Through his spoken word, all that belongs to him by divine right. He must, however, have perfect faith in his spoken word. Isaiah said, "My word shall not return unto me void, but shall accomplish that whereunto it is sent." We know now that words and thoughts are a tremendous vibratory force, ever molding man's body and affairs. A woman came to me in great distress and said she was to be sued on the 15th of the month for $3,000. She knew no way of getting the money and was in despair. I told her God was the source of her supply and that there is a supply for every demand. So I spoke the word. I give thanks that the woman would receive $3,000 at the right time and in the right way. I told her that she must have perfect faith and act her perfect faith. The 15th came, but no money had materialized. She called me on the phone and asked what she was to do. I replied, "It is Saturday, so they won't sue you today. Your part is to act rich, thereby showing perfect faith that you will receive it by Monday." She asked me to lunch with her to keep up her courage, and when I joined her at the restaurant, I said, "This is no time to economize. Order an expensive luncheon, act as if you have already received the $3,000. All things whatsoever ye ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive." You must act as if you had already received. The next morning, she called me on the phone and asked me to stay with her during the day. I said, "No, you're divinely protective and God is never too late." In the evening, she phoned again, greatly excited, and said, "My dear, a miracle has happened. I was sitting in my room this morning when the doorbell rang. I said to the maid, 'Don't let anyone in.' The maid, however, looked out the window and said, 'It's your cousin with a long white beard.' So I said, 'Call him back. I would like to see him.' He was just turning the corner when he heard the maid's voice and he came back. He talked for about an hour, and just as he was leaving, he said, 'Oh, by the way, how are your finances?' I told him I needed the money. And he said, 'Why, my dear, I shall give you $3,000 the first of the month.' I didn't like to tell him I was going to be sued. What shall I do? I won't receive it till the first of the month, and I must have it tomorrow," I said. "I'll keep on treating." I said, "Spirit is never too late. I give thanks she has received the money on the invisible plane and that it manifests on time." The next morning, her cousin called her up and said, "Come to my office this morning and I'll give you the money." That afternoon, she had $3,000 to her credit in the bank and wrote checks as rapidly as her excitement would permit. If one asks for success and prepares for failure, he will get the situation he has prepared for. For example, a man came to me and asked me to speak the word that a certain debt would be wiped out. I found he spent his time planning what he would say to the man when he did not pay his bill, thereby neutralizing my words. He should have seen himself paying the debt. We have a wonderful illustration of this in the Bible relating to the three kings who were in the desert without water for their men and horses. They consulted the prophet Elijah, who gave them this astonishing message. Thus saith the Lord, you shall not see wind, neither shall you see rain, yet make this valley full of ditches. Man must prepare for the thing he has asked for when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. For example, a woman found it necessary to look for an apartment during the year when there was a great shortage of apartments in New York. It was considered almost an impossibility, and her friends were sorry for her and said, isn't it too bad? You'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel. She replied, you needn't feel sorry for me. I'm Superman and I'll get an apartment. She spoke the words, infinite spirit, open the way for the right apartment. She knew there was a supply for every demand and that she was unconditioned, working on the spiritual plane, and that one with God is a majority. She had contemplated buying new blankets when the tempter, the adverse thoughts or reasoning mind, suggested, don't buy the blankets. Perhaps after all, you won't get an apartment and you will have no use for them. She promptly replied to herself, I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets. So she prepared for the apartment, acted as though she already had it. She found one in a miraculous way, and it was given to her, although there was over 200 other applicants. The blankets showed active faith. It is needless to say that the ditches dug by the three kings in the desert were filled to overflowing. Read 2 Kings. Getting into the spiritual swing of things is no easy matter for the average person. The adverse thoughts of doubt and fear surge through the subconscious. They are the army of aliens which must be put to flight. This explains why it is so often darkest before the dawn. A big demonstration is usually preceded by tormenting thoughts. Having made a statement of high spiritual truth, one challenges the old beliefs in the subconscious, and the error is exposed to be put out. This is the time when one must make his affirmations of truth repeatedly and rejoice and give thanks that he has already received. Before ye call, I shall answer. This means that every good and perfect gift is already man's, awaiting his recognition. Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving. The children of Israel were told that they could have all the land they could see. This is true of every man. He has only the land within his own mental vision. Every good work, every big accomplishment has been brought into manifestation through holding to the vision, and often just before the big achievement comes apparent failure and discouragement. The children of Israel, when they reached the promised land, were afraid to go in, for they said it was filled with giants who made them feel like grasshoppers. And there we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. This is almost every man's experience. However, the one who knows spiritual law is undisturbed by appearances and rejoices while he is yet in captivity. That is, he holds to his vision and gives thanks that the end is accomplished and he has. Jesus Christ gave a wonderful example of this. He said to his disciples, say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are ripe already with harvest. His clear vision pierced the world of matter, and he saw clearly the fourth dimensional world, things as they really are, perfect and complete in divine mind. So man must ever hold the vision of his journey's end and demand the manifestation of that which he has already received. It may be his perfect health, love, supply, self-expression, home, or friends. So man must ever hold the vision. And that really is living in the end. If you're talking about how and what we're doing here, you're stopping talking about the problem and you are focusing on the solution, and you are keeping your vision there. Oh, I'm just going to put the light on. And while you're doing that, you are deactivating the problem. One sec. You're deactivating the problem. You're stopping feeding the problem. And you're watering and focusing on the solution. Thank you, Akbar. No, I'm having a coughing attack. I was getting too excited about what I'm reading. So, it is very much about getting to the point where you spend more time living in the thoughts, the images. It's like that's that thing that he described about Jesus seeing the fields, and they look all dead and nothing's growing, but he's already transforming what he's seeing by seeing the fields not only just planted but already flourishing with the harvest. So this is what we ourselves are needing to practice. Gabrielle, go ahead.
Yes, I had a question about just from your perspective, like the lady who needed the 3,000 and she's waiting, for the 3,000 to manifest. Her cousin comes and then he essentially, she lets her need be known, but she doesn't tell him though that she needs it in a certain amount of time. Was that like a mistake on her part, or is it just a lesson for us to learn that it's like not too late to, kind of add on to, I'd like to have faith, I guess, for the ends to be met? Or yeah, did I miss something?
Good question. I think it's about allowing. She told him, but she wasn't trying to force sucking the money out of him by the first of the month. So he left, and then she then has to correct her again. Oh my God, I need the money by now. Like, I need it like straight away. I can't wait till the first. So she doesn't tell him that, which in a way I think is good, because she's not trying to manipulate or control the cousin. Of course, if she had said to him, I need it by tomorrow, he probably would have given it. But maybe she felt embarrassed. Maybe she felt shame. So she didn't ask. But the fact that she had to work mentally to correct her, I need to try and suck it out of him and complete the external manifestation, she did her inner work, which Florence had taught her. Imagine living in the state of having paid all that stuff, which is why Florence said, go out and have an expensive lunch, because if you had the money, that's what you'd be doing. So it's Gabrielle, I think it's you stop the grabbing on the outside tendencies, which are the normal things that we do, and you work more internally at, I have faith, I have it, I've paid all the debts, I am free, and I feel amazing that this is all behind me. That's the inner work, you see. Good question, because it is the obvious thing. Well, it's her cousin. Why doesn't she speak up? But she didn't. So it's, yeah, it's almost like you gotta, the don't pick the fruit before it's ripe kind of theory. You allow it to ripen naturally without you trying to stand over it and go, come on, ripen, 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 and coax it. Akbar.
Hi, and yes, hi everyone. My question is regarding what you just said. If someone was to take their first step in terms of working on their inner state, what advice would you give?
Well, it depends on what it is that you are looking to manifest. Firstly, in the case of the woman with the $3,000, because that's an easy one to use as an example, she was feeling totally financially suffocated and full of fear.
Yeah.
And she was looking to feel financial freedom and a relaxedness. So in her case, it would be like what Florence said, go have a nice lunch, enjoy it, relax into it, because you know the money's coming, and that's a physical act of faith. You're doing an action that's inspired by, well, if I had faith, that's what I'd be doing. The fear would be, are you nuts? What are you spending another $50 to $100 on a lunch that you don't need? That's ridiculous. That's what the average person would say. So it's, you got to work out what is the state of being that I'm looking to embody. And it's different things for different, you know, it might be that you want to get into a state of love because you want to attract love from someone. It might be that you want to walk around in confidence and success when you don't have a job because you're looking to manifest a job from that company that you sent your resume to, but you haven't heard back from. So it depends what you're trying to achieve as your end result. And then you got to drag back into the present and generate the emotion you would have if you had it right this second.
And that for, would you have to be in that state of being for like 24 hours every day, or is it just a couple hours a day, a couple of minutes a day?
I think as much as you can. I mean, when I was trying to be in London, when I was in Sydney, I had heaps of doubts. I had heaps of moments of, are you nuts? This is too hard. You've worked a job. How the hell are you going to start a business, you know, earn six figures to be able to go back and forth to see your mum in Sydney and your partner in London? And in those days, he wasn't even my partner. So I was thinking, what the hell are you doing? That was the fear thoughts. But the thoughts of, hang on, what if I could stretch myself to believe I can earn six figures, that I could be free, that I could have a wonderful partner, I could still see my mom, and let me stretch myself further and travel business class? Nice. That's not going to happen for you. Yeah, but what if it could? Well, it hasn't happened yet. Yeah, but you can learn. So here's the back and forth, the back and forth, the back and forth of the thoughts I had at that time. So it's just seeing where you're at and then not allowing yourself to stay stuck in your small thinking, because we've all got small thinking on things that feel big, amazing relationship, $1 million, whatever it is. You know, we've all got thoughts about it because we haven't been able to cross over to be able to get to where we want to go yet. But 51% is enough, according to Abraham Hicks. And I have to say that's probably about as much as I did, because I had still a lot of fear and doubt and anxiety at certain times. But I still did Ho'oponopono, and I still did Living in the End, and I still did meditations. And then I did, you know, I'd have a bit of an emotional breakdown and cry on the bed and go, oh, this is never going to happen. Who do you think you are? This is ridiculous. This stuff's just not going to work for you. So I had both operating on a regular basis.
Wow. And you made it as well. Amazing.
I know. It's quite, you know, it's quite, when I look back, I look back and see the magnitude of how many things had to shift for me to get to where I am, because it was money, business, becoming a business owner, a small business owner, rather than having an employee hat on. So I had to take the employee hat off, put the business owner hat on, which I had no idea what I was doing, and then believe that I could be with somebody that was quite remarkable that I'd never been with someone of that caliber before, live in another country and still be able to go back and forth to see my mum, because I didn't want to leave my mum on her own because my brother lives in another country. So yeah, it was a massive stretch. There are days, Akbar, where I just went, oh my God, I'm so exhausted and weary. There's too many plates spinning. I can't. But you know what? A day at a time, I just kept my foot on the accelerator, and then I'd surrender and let go and go to bed and go to sleep. So
it's just really doing it a day at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A day at a time, and just making time, you know? I mean, this is the thing. Now, because you're in a few groups with me, right?
Yeah.
Now, you show up, you make the effort. I can tell you a good 50% of people come to session 1 and 2, and by session 3, 50% of them have dropped off. Even people that have paid, because people do not discipline themselves to continue. And that's why they don't get to where they want to go. They're great at starting things, and they're hopeless at continuation. And
I am like that, but not with courses. I'm not like that with courses. If someone says I've got to do a course, I want to finish it. I want to finish it, or if there's a study class, I want to do it.
Yeah, and I've noticed that about you. I've noticed that about you, because when you come, I've seen you continue, but you're in the 10%.
Right.
I see this all the time. People are like, I promise I'll be there. I won't miss a session. Like, to me, it's neither here nor there. You don't have to promise to me, because I'm not the one trying to manifest the thing. It doesn't affect me.
Sure.
But when people, whether they pay or don't pay, and they don't make the commitment to themselves. So how can the desire commit to them? It won't. I mean, I worked for probably a year and a half to 2 years solidly. I didn't even turn the TV on. I was working on my inside self, and I had the foot on the accelerator because I was so sick and tired of what I was going through in regards to money, in regards to health, in regards to relationships, in regards to being an employee, because I couldn't stand it. I did not want to work for anyone. I am not a good employee because I don't like
I'm not either.
Some of us don't like being told when to show up, how long to be there, and what we have to do. We're just not that, we're not that way inclined.
No. But I've been thinking about entrepreneurship. I'm too afraid to take the chance. Because it's it's because I find it too risky, and if it falls back, it's like you failed, you know?
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, I just started 2 hours a week working on, I had this little Post-it note, and I stuck it on my computer. And on that Post-it note, every Sunday night, I called it Post-it Sunday. It came from some other guy. It was his technique, so I can't take credit for it. But you put 3 things down on that Post-it note, and then by the next Sunday, you make sure you've done it. And I did that every single Sunday night for 2 years while I had a job. And I slowly started setting up what I do now. So I don't think you have to just cut off your income and then jump and go, I got to get this going really fast, because that'll stress you out so much you won't survive. The fear will crush you. You need money coming in while you're setting up, I think, something on your own. And then as it does well, then you drop away the wage. So I think that's the best way, is to do it. And you don't have to give it hours and hours and hours. It's those small, steady steps over a long period of time. That's how you create things.
Right.
And it's those people, it's again, the people that aren't, there's 85% rabbits and 15% turtles. It's learning to be a turtle, because the turtle wins the race. The rabbit's always gung-ho to start, and they don't finish. And this is why it shoots them in the foot. And it's like, I was a rabbit. I get it. You know, I wanted things quick and fast too, but I learned to be a turtle. So do I, yeah. The turtles win. They do. So it doesn't matter if it's, you know, whatever manifestation you desire. It's It's being consistent to yourself. Doesn't matter what anyone else is, if they're watching, not watching. It's the fact that, you know, I hear a lot of people, they want a commitment from someone else, but they themselves don't make a commitment to themselves to do the work. So you cannot receive from another what you do not do for yourself. And, you know, this is a lesson that life teaches all of us, and usually the hard way, you know, and that's all right. It's just lessons. And, you know, you show up for what you want to show up for, and you drop away. I mean, a lot of people drop away because they want the quick fix. I've seen hundreds of people do that and then come back 3 years later. Oh, and yes, you spoke about self-love. You talked about the turtle thing. I heard it, but I didn't want to do it. And now I'm back in the SHIT again, you know? So, and look, I did the same. I'm not standing in judgment. I did exactly the same, had to burn my fingers so many times until I got it. And this is, you know, this is the lesson for us all. So yeah, small and steady, Akbar, small and steady.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Wendy.
Hi, Agnes. Good evening.
Hello.
Good to be here. And it was wonderful listening to you about that turtle thing. And also in this chapter, Florence was talking about the wish fulfilled state. Is it not? She was saying you pray and you stay in that state, indirectly implying what Neville was directly saying.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they, but, you know, staying in that state every day for several years, how did you do it every day for the several years? Like what were your routine to stay in that state, like catching your emotions? Or when you were saying you have been manifesting for years, like you stabilize. So how did you stay within yourself the wish fulfilled state every day?
Well, I didn't stay in it all day, every day, Wendy. I had a lot of times where I had anxiety, where I'd be crying, where I'd go, this is too hard, I can't do this. Not wanting to talk to people about it because a lot of my friends, well, only one of my friends did this work, and she was the only one I spoke to. So, I mean, we still do this work together 30 years later. She's in her 70s now. She's 78, and I met her and she was in her 50s. So it's like her and I both had each other, and we both, well, I learned how to be a turtle from her. Because she was older than me, she just had a more relaxed, I was much more of a rabbit trying to just get there, but I learned from watching her how to be a turtle. So I didn't stay in that state all the time, Wendy. I definitely didn't. I stayed in it as much as I could, but I did do it daily. And I was committed because I was in suffering and pain. I didn't want to stay in that. And it was harder to stay in pain and suffer than it was to just get on and do something else, because I knew I would feel relief if I did a meditation, if I went for a walk and did my affirmations, if I read my script, if I did my Ho'oponopono, if I did my automatic writing or my visioning. I knew all of those things gave me relief and made me feel better and made me feel more connected to my desires. So I just wanted things to change.
That's what Neville talks about, burning desire, right? That things needs to change, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, a
lot
of people have a burning desire, but they still have more of a laziness to help themselves. They want life to help them. They don't want to help themselves. So, you know, it's easy to say you want to help yourself, but it's doing the helping yourself and being consistent for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. I just made a decision. I was going to do it until it changed. I didn't care about the time. I just knew I would learn what I had to learn. I would read. This book was the very first book I ever received before Neville. Florence was my first love. I got Neville a year later. So I read this book. I mean, you can see it's all highlighted, it's starred, it's got bits of paper hanging out. I read this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I read it so I could almost repeat the words without even having to read the book. It became so familiar, like a worn-in T-shirt, this book and The Law and the Promise from Neville Goddard. Those two books, this book that we're reading and The Law and the Promise, were my two books that I read and studied and analyzed. And then I thought, okay, how do I apply what I've written here, what I've read here, to what I'm going through? And I would take notes, and then I would write down, okay, I'm going to apply this, and I'm going to remember this bit, and I'd break down the mechanics of it, and I'd keep little, because in those days I didn't even have a phone, you know, didn't have mobile phones then, so you couldn't just type things in your notes. I was writing things in, I used to buy these tiny little notebooks, and then I could put them in my back pocket, and then I could read them on my lunch hour while I was at work. So I spent, yeah, I was like Sherlock Holmes. I was just obsessed with it, because I did not want to continue being sick, being poor, being emotionally broken, and being mentally a weak person.
Wow. Actually, I don't know if you have heard. Yesterday, I was hearing Neville's one of his lecture called My Servants. And in that lecture, he was talking about when he was in the spiritual journey. He went to New York. Whatever the money he got, he started buying books, and he was only reading the books for several years, I think. He was only reading the books. I did not have money to do any other stuff other than reading books. Secondhand bookstore, I go and I buy the secondhand books, and then I read it. I sit in my home, I read it. This is how I was doing.
Yeah.
And that's what he was in one bit of that lecture. He was saying that, not in every lecture that he was saying. You know, it doesn't come to us easily, because this is not the stuff that has been ingrained in our genes. You know, it's not in our generations, it's not in our genes, it's not in our school system, and that is corrupted. Okay. And you know, this is because school system makes us think logical brain, not to use the intellectual brain. That is a right brain system, and that is what this is all about. And it's not correct at all. And I hold a master's degree, and I was a gold medalist in master's degree 30 years back in poor village, okay? But that was logical thinking. That is completely different. And this is actually a spiritual journey, and spiritual thinking is completely different, and it's against the ocean of steam of social life with other people. Right? You are going in a different direction. Very less people can achieve this stream of life, and they are, I think we are all blessed to be in that and do a turtle journey in consistent manner. Even though we are falling down, we are getting up, improving every damn day, right?
That's
so
it.
that's what, some days I feel very lonely. Why did I choose this path? I lost all my friends, all my social life, all of them. But I decided, no, it's one day I will feel like that. Soon I'll be very busy. So now let me focus on myself, that I will be a busy person.
That's
something
it.
like, right?
Yeah. Nice.
So it's so interesting. Thank you, Agnes. You are so inspirational on this. What when you are working on this, what were your routines? Because you are doing full-time job as well as working on which is very harder, right? Like I'm going through the same thing, working on full-time job and then going through the spiritual journeys. It's kind of very hard. You don't find time on that. Very hard to find.
I only did I'd get home from work, I'd have something to eat, I'd have a shower, and then it was just, okay, now I've got from 7 o'clock until 10 p.m. when I go to bed. So I usually did 2 or 3 hours a night. And some nights I was tired, so I just watch a movie. So I did a lot, but I didn't push myself to the point of being exhausted. I just did little tiny steps on a regular basis. And it's that turtle approach that I think, that's how I got there. And this is the thing. I mean, on YouTube now, manifest in 30 minutes, manifest in 3 days, manifest in a week. You know what? Most of that's just nonsense. I'm not saying you can't manifest quickly, but that's not up to you. You have to try and let go and learn what you need to learn, and take the time to learn it, and be humble as an eternal student. You know, I see a lot of this entitlement, and you know, I have people that come to me and they're debating Neville, and they've been reading him for 6 months or a year. And I think, I'm only starting to understand Neville fully at 30 years now. I don't think I know everything, but this thing of, I've been doing this for 5 minutes and I'm going to teach a master class. It's absolute BS. You cannot know what you're doing. And not only that, you've got no humility. So that is one of the greatest spiritual lessons of all, is remembering to have humility about, you know, I mean, if you're a master, it's other people that say that of you, not you saying that about yourself. And teaching master classes when you got no life experience, again, is just nonsense. So it's taking the time, little by little. A year goes by, 2 years goes by, 5 years goes by, 10 years goes by. Okay, at 10 years, you probably know a little bit now. At 20 years, you're probably a little bit more intermediate. But it's trying to let go of this, I know everything, and that I know what, you know, this thing of people thinking that they know what Neville's talking about, or Florence, after 3 months or 6 months. It's an ignorant arrogance, I will say. And you know, if that's who you are, then that's your journey to learn that, you know, there'll be a humbling moment at some point that you realize that you don't know what you're talking about, and it's better to keep quiet, be humble, and learn some more. And then as you practice and you get results, then you can speak about your experiences and your abilities, if someone wants to know. Not from a place of being a braggosaurus, but from a place of, how can I be of service to help someone else who's suffering? And from a place of quiet humility. And I think that is the biggest spiritual journey, is learning, whether you're learning Florence or Neville or anything else, your life will tell you how well you're doing on all of these teachings. That's the greatest result, the benchmark of all.
Actually, you were saying very exactly pinpoint direction. I was reading a book about Rosicrucian order. If you join there, that's where Neville studied. Actually, 5 years Neville studied with Rosicrucians order, and they take 2 years to teach one spiritual path. That is 2 years to learn one lesson. They don't teach it within a day, and you know,
exactly.
To completely, Neville studied 5 years from them, and
yeah,
it is a lot, because this is a mental work, and that requires repetition and a practice.
It does,
and that is not one you know, instantaneous. Today the world is like instant gratification, which is not this. This is not that. So
Wendy, I'm going to continue with Florence, because we've only got about another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. No worries. Now, man must ever hold the vision of his journey's end, and demand the manifestation of that which he has already received. It may be his perfect health, love, supply, self-expression, home, or friends. They are all finished and perfect ideas, registered in divine mind, man's own superconscious mind, and must come through him, not to him. So Louise Hay used to say that. It comes to me, through me, from within me. And I used to think, what's she talking about? But this is the same. It comes through you. There must be a shift in your consciousness about the subject of health, money, relationships, love, my body. And then you will see the knock-on effect of a result, but internally to see an external change, which is what the everyone is you pushed out principle is, which is what Ho'oponopono talks about. They're all interlinked. For example, a man came to me asking for treatments for success. It was imperative that he raise within a certain time $50,000 for his business. The time limit was almost up when he came to me in despair. No one wants to invest in his enterprise, and the bank had flatly refused a loan. I replied, I suppose you lost your temper while at the bank, and therefore your power. You can control any situation if you first control yourself. I'm going to read that again, because this is what so many of us lose, is our ability to have self-control. We get angry, we get upset, we get resentful, we have an outburst, we get hostile, we go into shame, not good enoughness, and we've lost our ability to control ourselves. So you, as Florence said, and her words are absolutely beautiful here, you can control any situation if you first control yourself. Go back to the bank. I added, I will treat. My treatment was, you are identified in love with the spirit of everyone connected with the bank. Let the divine idea come out of this situation. He replied, woman, you're talking about an impossibility. Tomorrow is Saturday. The bank closes at 12 and my train won't get me there until 10, and the time limit is up tomorrow. And anyway, they won't do it. It's too late. I replied, God doesn't need any time, and it's never too late. With him, all things are possible. And I added, I don't know anything about business, but I know all about God. He replied, it all sounds fine when I sit here listening to you, but when I go out there, it's terrible. He lived in a distant city and I didn't hear back from him for a week. Then came a letter. It read, you were right. I raised the money and I will never again doubt the truth of all that you told me. I saw him a few weeks later and I said, what happened? You evidently had plenty of time after all. And he replied, my train was late. I got there just 15 minutes to 12. I walked into the bank and quietly said, I have come for the loan. And they gave it to me without question. It was the last 15 minutes of time allotted to him, and the infinite spirit was not too late. In this instance, the man could never have demonstrated alone. He needed someone to help him hold the vision. This is what one man can do for another. Jesus Christ knew the truth of this when he said, if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. One gets too close to his own affairs and becomes doubtful and fearful. The friend or healer sees clearly the success, health, or prosperity and never wavers because he is not close to the situation. It is much easier to demonstrate to someone else than for oneself, so a person should not hesitate to ask for help. If he feels himself wavering, a keen observer of life once said, no man can fail if some person sees him successful. Such is the power of the vision, and many a great man has owed his success to a wife, a sister, or a friend who believed in him and held without wavering to the perfect pattern. Elaine.
Sorry, it took me a minute to figure out how to unmute. So sorry. My question is regarding the vision. So you mentioned that that is living in the end, correct? Agnes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear
okay.
you.
So it's
say that last bit again about the vision.
The vision. So you mentioned how it's very similar to living in the end.
Yes.
And is that the same? I'm assuming that's the same as imaginal acts as well, right?
Yes, they're all just different ways of saying the same thing. Holding the vision is holding the solution in mind, and then having the emotion of relief that goes with it.
So my question is there a difference with envisioning in first person point of view versus third person? Because when I try to hold that vision, or when I try to live in the end of what I'm trying to manifest, I find myself doing it in third person, where I see myself like a movie versus me in it. Is there a difference with that?
Yeah, it needs to be done in first person, where you're looking out your eyes.
Okay.
Because otherwise it's just over there happening to the cardboard cutout of you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You know what, Elaine, I used to do this thing because I used to imagine in third person and I really struggled to imagine in first person. So what I'd do was I'd sit, I'd close my eyes, I'd put my hands in front, I'd open my eyes, I'd look at my hands, I'd close my eyes, I'd open my eyes, I'd look at my hands, and then I'd close my eyes, and then I would go into the visualization. There was something about looking at my hands made me look out my own eyes when I hopped into the imaginal scene.
I'm going to try that. Thank you, because I'm also struggling with first person.
Yeah, it's tricky at first. It is,
Yeah.
because we're so used to watching movies and seeing characters over there. So it's like our brains are trained to see things separate from us in that way.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No worries. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit more. Now we're into chapter 3, the power of the word. By thy word thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. A person knowing the power of the word becomes very careful of his conversation. He has only to watch the reaction of his words to know that they do not return void. Through his spoken word, man is continually making laws for himself. I knew a man who said, I always miss a car. It invariably pulls out just as I arrive. His daughter said, I always catch a car. It's sure to come just as I get there. This occurred for years. Each had made a separate law for himself, one of failure, one of success. This is the psychology of superstitions. The horseshoe, or rabbit's foot, contains no power, but man's spoken word and belief that it will bring him good luck creates expectancy in the subconscious mind and attracts a lucky situation. I find, however, this will not work when man has advanced spiritually and knows a higher law. One cannot turn back and must put away graven images. So yeah, as you spiritually move up, you let go of trinkets. You let go of rabbit's feet. You let go of, dream catchers and all these things. They work because you believe in them, but you'll get to the point where you don't need those middle things. You can just go straight by having a line of energy between you and source. But there's nothing wrong with having these things as stepping stones in the meantime. Now, for example, 2 men in my class had had great success in business for several months when suddenly everything went to smash. We tried to analyze the situation, and I found instead of making their affirmations and looking to God for success and prosperity, they had each bought a lucky monkey. I said, I see. You've been trusting in the lucky monkeys instead of God. Put away the lucky monkeys and call on the law of forgiveness. For man has power to forgive or neutralize his mistakes. They decided to throw the lucky monkeys down a coal hole, and all went well again. This does not mean, however, that one should throw away every lucky ornament or horseshoe about the house, but he must recognize that the power back of it is the one and only power of God, and that the object simply gives him a feeling of expectancy. I was with a friend one day who was in deep despair. In crossing the street, she picked up a horseshoe. Immediately, she was filled with joy and hope. She said God had sent her the horseshoe in order to keep up her courage. It was indeed at that moment about the only thing that could have registered in her consciousness. Her hope became faith, and she ultimately made a wonderful demonstration. I wish to make the point clear that the men previously mentioned were depending on the monkeys alone, while this woman recognized the power back of the horseshoe. I know in my own case, it took a long while to get out of the belief that a certain thing brought disappointment. If the thing happened, disappointment invariably followed. I found the only way I could make a change in the subconscious was by asserting there are not 2 powers, there is only one power. God, therefore, there is no disappointments, and this thing means a happy surprise. I noticed a change at once, and happy surprises commenced coming my way. I have a friend who said nothing could induce her to walk under a ladder. I said, if you are afraid, you are giving in to a belief in 2 powers, good and evil, instead of one. As God is absolute, there can be no opposing power unless man makes the false of evil for himself. To show you believe in only one power, God, and that there is no power or reality in evil, walk under the next ladder you see. Soon after she went to her bank, she wished to open her box in the safety deposit vault, and there stood a ladder on her pathway. It was impossible to reach the box without passing under the ladder. She quailed with fear and turned back. She could not face the lion on her pathway. However, when she reached the street, my words rang in her ears and she decided to return and walk under it. It was a big moment in her life, for ladders had held her in bondage for years. She retraced her steps to the vault and the ladder was no longer there. This so often happens. If one is willing to do the thing he's afraid to do, he does not have to. It is the law of non-resistance, which is so little understood. Someone has said that courage contains genius and magic. Face a situation fearlessly, and there is no situation to face. It falls away of its own weight. The explanation is that fear attracted the ladder on the woman's pathway, and fearlessness removed it. Thus, the invisible forces are ever working for man, who is always pulling the strings himself, though he does not know it. Owing to the vibratory power of his words, whatever man voices, he begins to attract. People who continually speak of disease invariably attract it. After man knows the truth, he cannot be too careful of his words. For example, I have a friend who often says on the phone, "Do come to see me and we can have a fine old-fashioned chat." This old-fashioned chat means an hour of about 500 to 1,000 destructive words, the principal topics being loss, lack, failure, and sickness. I reply, "No, thank you. I've had enough old-fashioned chats in my life. They're too expensive, but I will be glad to have a new-fashioned chat and talk about what we want, not what we don't want." There is an old saying that man only dares use his words for three purposes: to heal, bless, or prosper. What man says to others will be said of him, and what he wishes for another, he is wishing for himself. Curses like chickens come home to roost. If a man wishes someone bad luck, he is sure to attract bad luck to himself. Actually, I'll tell you a little story. A friend of my mum's a couple of weeks ago contacted my mum and via WhatsApp and said, "Can you ask your daughter to find me a hotel in London? I'll be there in 2025 July. Can you also ask her to look up the transport system for someone that's over 75? And there were two other requests. Now, my mom pretty much likes everyone, but this message pissed her off. And I'll tell you why. Because the woman didn't say please, she didn't say thank you, and she had a bit of entitlement that I was going to do this for her. Now, I would have done it because it was for my mum, but my mum messaged me and said, "I am not happy with how she sent this message, and I will be telling her." So my mum tells her, I copied the message you sent me and sent it to my daughter. There was no please, no thank you, and I'm really not okay, even though my daughter would probably do it for you, with how you approach this. Instead of apologizing, she said, "Oh, no, I didn't expect that." And she just completely denied what she had done and also what my mum was pointing out. So I said to my mum, "I don't know about hotels because I live in London and I never stay in any." She needs to get on Google and look up Airbnb or booking.com and look it up for herself. This is it's next year, about 8 months away. So I said to Mum, "Yeah, she was pretty rude. And to be honest, Mum, if she hadn't been your friend, I wouldn't have helped her. I would have said, your self-indulgence was pretty off-putting. I don't really feel like looking it up for you." That's probably what I would have said if it wasn't a friend of my mum's. But out of respect to my mum, I didn't say anything. So what do I hear? A week later, after my mum pointing it out, she doesn't say any apology to my mother, and she still is standing in her entitlement and expectation. I find out she's not only fallen down the stairs, she's injured her ankle so badly that she can't walk, and she hit her head on the steps at the same time. Now, you go, wow, that was pretty quick. Now, I said to Mum, gee, I don't wish that on anyone, because I wouldn't. But isn't it interesting that when you put certain things out, and then even when it's pointed out, you still stand in your self-righteousness, the boomerang comes back and hits you. So you got to be mindful of what you're doing, because it's you that ends up paying the price. I wasn't even, I'd let it go after that first few days I wasn't angry. I was just a bit, like, I just said to Mum, what are you doing hanging out with her? You know, if she's like that. That was what I said to my mum. After that, I'd completely let it go. But I thought, isn't it interesting? Because sometimes things come back and hit you quite quick. And when you're in self-indulgence and expectation and entitlement, those things can come back and bite you on the backside. And I do hope my mum's friend heals quickly, but the connection between the two things is really interesting. So words have power. And karma, yes, Sarit. That was pretty quick karma too, goodness me. So there's about 4 minutes left. I won't read any more. We will continue next week. Does anyone want to ask anything or comment on anything before we go? Because there was lots of great lessons in there. Akbar, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you about the law of non-resistance, because
yes.
I find that concept quite hard to understand, because I think there is resistance somewhere, but how do you become non-resistant? I've always found that tough. And every time I've read about it, I'm really more and more confused.
Okay, law of non-resistance. Let's use an example.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I apply for a job. I've done my resume, my CV. I've sent it out. I've done it to the best of my ability. And now I really love that company. I'd really love to work for them. But if I keep thinking about it with pining and waiting for the phone call, I'm in resistance because I'm not trusting. I'm in, what if other people will get it? There's so many applicants. Why would they pick me? And you're going into all these thoughts that cloud your living in the end. So the whole point is to be non-resistant. Now, how do you do that in this situation? You go off and you ride your bike. You go and have fun with your friends. You do your meditation for self-love, and you do maybe some surrender and letting go. Then you go to watch a movie on a Friday night. You come home and you go, oh, I really want to cook a chicken and mushroom pie today. And you get lost in doing that.
Right.
So that's how you become non-resistant, is you stop staying stuck in that moment and waiting, and you move yourself through some hoops of enjoyment.
So it's really being non-attached to the outcome.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, but that's kind of hard though, isn't it? Because your mind's always kind of pulling you, thinking about that moment.
I find one of the greatest things to do is Ho'oponopono. Now, say you can't, no one's around, you can't go out with your friends and get distracted. You're cooking, but you're still obsessing about it. You got to find things, you got to give your mind something else to loop or go over if it's something that you really want, you're struggling to detach. The power of detachment is putting your full focus elsewhere, because focusing on it with worry is actually creating the very thing you don't want, not getting the job. Now, that applies to a relationship, it applies to money, it applies to buying a house, it applies to losing weight, whatever it is that's in front of you that's bugging you. So it really is, the power of non-resistance is fully engaging your mind in other things that you forget about it and you lose track of time.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. Bob.
So, with that being said, I do find myself, even like I'll say I'll do a meditation just so I can kind of forget and not focus on it. But it still is in my mindset, even in the middle of the meditation. It's like, it's almost like it's even hard to block it like most of the time. So I find that to be even like hard to just stay, to focus on something else, because it'll still keep popping and appearing in my mind.
Well, maybe meditation isn't, let's say, potent enough to pull you away from it at that time. So you go, okay, what else can I do? Maybe it's going to play badminton, or maybe it's going to do a Zumba class because you got to pay attention to the steps and it pulls you right away. It's got to be something that's really engaging mentally, so that you cannot think of two things at once.
Okay. That makes sense.
Meditation's very easy to just go right back to indulging in it.
Yeah, you're sitting still and you're like, okay, why are you popping back? That's not what I'm trying to do here.
I know.
Okay, but you're right, like a class or something. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you'll do like a 30-minute meditation. You go, great, I won't think about this for 30 minutes. And then you go, I didn't hear a damn word that guided meditation said.
And don't get me on a guided meditation, because that's even like, I'm like, I can't even understand what you're trying to get me to guide on right now.
I know.
Okay.
Don't look, even after 30 years of meditating, that still happens to me. So don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
Gabrielle, last question, and then we will sign off for today.
Yes, thank you. So my question is, what's the difference between like a hunch and that resistance? Because like not too long ago, like I felt like this call to like reach out to a person, but I'm trying to release and I'm trying to let go. And then it's been months, right? So it's been 6, 7 months. And then I'm like, okay, well, let me, I don't know. Yeah, what's the difference between that hunch of like, maybe you should reach out to that person, or maybe you should do that thing that's cycling in your head, or no, you should kind of let go and, yeah.
Well, a hunch doesn't feel like maybe you should. A hunch is, do it.
Yeah.
It's not wishy-washy. It's like it's not like you trying to get motivated to do something. A hunch is like a whoosh from behind. You know to do that. And it's exciting. Whereas when you made that connection, what was the emotion underneath? Can you remember?
It was like desperation, I guess, or like just like this need, just like, yeah, this like, yeah, I can't find the words exactly, but that's the best way I could describe.
Desperation isn't a hunch. Desperation is, I feel needy and I'm going to do what I want because I want to control the outcome. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought this up, because it's like you got to get better at feeling your way as to, how does a hunch feel? How does inspiration feel? How does my intuition feel? It doesn't have any of that stuff in it. Neediness, trying to get, feeling desperate, feeling obsessed. None of those things is divinely guided. That's all the lower self trying to pretend it's being the higher self.
All right. Got it. Thank you. That was clear. Thank you.
But don't worry, you're not the only one, Gabrielle. I mean, I've tried to convince myself that I wasn't coming from need and pretending I was my higher self so many times in the past. So you get better at not fooling yourself over time. Thanks, everybody. Big hugs. You can unmute yourself and say bye if you want.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. I will upload this within the next few days. Just check the channel and I will have it up there for you if you want to go over it. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. If you join in live, use the same link every week. Super simple. Lots of love. See you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.